This is such an amazing assembly that we've entered into as we're closing up this canto, or this section of the Bhagavatam, with so many great personalities assembling to witness and to watch and to take part in this pastime of Lord Vamanadev and Bali Maharaj. And each and every one of us has the propensity to be around elevated beings. Speak to any Srila Prabhupada disciple, and if they were fortunate enough to have his association, there's nothing like it to be in the association of this type of personality. It elevates the consciousness, it elevates the heart, it destroys the ignorance. We sing it in the Guru Puja. It takes away all of the misgivings of who we are, just to be in the presence. And what to speak of the presence of Lord Vamanadev and all of these great personalities. And we hit up in this pastime, often we hit up Shukracharya. Oh, he's the guru of the demons. He's not as we are as Vaishnavas. Who's Shukracharya? When you study Vedic astrology, you understand Shukracharya is the Venus. Amazing personality, so steady, so heavenly, so powerful, and can induce us in so many different ways. And this Shukracharya is humbling himself before the Lord, and previously in previous verses was sharing the same realization that Srila Prabhupada brought, that there was no discrepancy in following the order of the Lord, and the best thing to do is to chant the holy names. And this is just the message of the Bhagavatam over and over again. And so we're in this glorious assembly, and we're experiencing this amazing confluence of personalities all in the same place at the same time. And just by absorbing ourselves in and appreciating all of these different personalities that take part in these pastimes and try to understand them, we make wonderful spiritual advancement. And this is no different than our day-to-day lives, because we want to see the hand of Krishna in everything that we do. I want to see the hand of Krishna in everything that I put my energy into. I want to see the hand of Krishna in every person that I meet. I want to see that spark of divinity in each and every one of them. And Srila Prabhupada is saying, sometimes what happens when we get this, when we're in a lower mentality, he hits up the scientists in this purport, doesn't he? And he says basically that when the scientists try to understand, and they don't appreciate, they just try to understand by their own intelligence, and they try to understand by their own strength of knowledge, they're never going to get it right. And he uses the example of, at that time, taking frivolous trips to the moon and Mars. They're trying to understand these. As most of you are probably in the know, there's certain personalities on the planet right now who have a serious Mars mission, that they really want to start something on Mars, and they have a lot of power. And coincidentally, these personalities they're empowered by personalities. When you have a lot of money, generally, when you look at the Vedic astrology of it, you'll see that someone is endowed with Jupiter, Brihaspati, that's who Jupiter is, or they're endowed with Venus, which is Shukracharya. So these same personalities induce and enliven and excite these little tiny jivas, these little specks called human beings here on this middle planetary system, to feel that we have so much, that we are so powerful, that, as we read in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that I have so much, and anybody that tries to step in my way, I crush them. And we get filled up with these different conceptions because we don't see a broader picture. on the regular. We don't see ourselves in relation to the different planetary systems. We don't see ourselves in relation to the power and the glory of God. We don't see ourselves in relation to these things because there's a strong self-centeredness that's in the heart. And we forget, as we titled this discussion today, how wonderful is Krishna. We forget that because as a spirit soul trapped in a material situation, we've decided at some point or other that I'm in the center of this. And because I'm in the center of this, this world revolves around me. And when we do that, we miss out on seeing how wonderful is Krishna. And this starts for us here in this wonderful community of the Bhakti Center. It's easy to see the power of Krishna when you go to the Grand Canyon. What is this place? This is amazing. It's easy to see the power of Krishna if you go to, New Yorkers are fond to go to where? They're fond to go to Niagara Falls. It's wonderful. Go to Niagara Falls. So beautiful, so powerful. So look at this place. It's amazing. You hear the sound of the water rushing. Wow. Wow. And in nature's glory, you think, man, I'm so small. When you're stuck in a city environment, you don't have those thoughts all the time. They're not constant thoughts because everything around is quote unquote man-made. The ground you walk on is man-made. When's the last time your feet hit the earth? Man-made. I'm on a man-made experience. And so this must be how life is. It's by me. It's by my own endeavor. And we don't see that, wow, Krishna is the boss. There's a beautiful personality behind everything that I'm experiencing here. And it's just mind-blowing. We have walnut trees on our property here. I bought this thing called a weasel. It's a yard weasel. I hope you're laughing at that, Ananda Bihari. A yard weasel. And it's this circular thing that you go on the ground and you pick up walnuts with it. And I said, oh, we're gonna crack all these walnuts. And I spent an hour with my yard weasel on the ground picking up walnuts and putting them into a wheelbarrow. And I filled the wheelbarrow. And I didn't even get to the other side of one tree. And we have 8 trees, 8 walnut trees. Who's this personality that's making these walnuts and these walnut trees that are seemingly unlimited? It's one tree. So it's nothing. But to speak of this whole creation. So we get caught in these tiny places. And when we get caught in these tiny places, and our mind and our vision isn't expanded to see our connection to this earth, what to speak of these powerful personalities like the sun, the moon, even Shukracharya himself, Venus, Jupiter, Brihaspati. I'm connected to all of these powerful personalities. What to speak of how wonderful is Krishna, the ultimate personality. And he speaks about this. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10. I want us to listen to, if you were able to hear when I read all of the different translations, I want us to read chapter 10, this section of chapter 10 in the Bhagavad Gita. And I want you to hear, for the same personalities that we just read, what an exalted, as we said, an exalted meeting of personalities. Listen to what Krishna says in chapter 10, as he's describing, right after he's telling Arjuna about the most confidential knowledge. It's such an intimate part of the Bhagavad Gita here. It's so intimate. He's pulled him aside. He's sharing his heart of hearts, Krishna is now. He's saying, listen, I want to tell you these secrets now. It's as if when you go into a room and somebody's revealing their heart, and you right away understand that, oh, maybe this isn't this space for me to enter, because it's so intimate. And then you walk out and I'm sorry. Sorry, Prabhu, I didn't know that you guys were speaking, because the heart is being revealed. Krishna is revealing the most intimate of the intimate. And then he says, and then after, Arjuna asks him the question, well, tell me more. Tell me more. And then he says, okay, I'll tell you some more about my opulence. And so I want to read some of the opulence, and I want us to take it back to some of the translations that we just read and see these are the same personalities. And Krishna is revealing these are my manifestations in this world. So he says, where is the share button? He says, the 7 great sages, before them the other great sages and the Manus. So the Manus are present here in this pastime. They come from me. They're born of my mind. One who is factually convinced about this engages in unalloyed devotional service. So then he goes on, and at this point, Arjuna's sold. He realizes all of these. He realizes this point, the Gita could stop completely. Arjuna says, "You got it. Thank you. I get it. You're the boss. You are the supreme personality of Godhead." Everybody says this. Look, Narada's in this conversation. Narada's in this part of the Bhagavatam. He says, everybody confirms this. Vyasa wrote about this. You're declaring it to me now. I totally accept this. Then he asks him, just describe one more time. Tell me your details. Okay, I'll tell you, no problem. Let me tell you about these. I'm the super soul in your heart. Of the Adityas, I'm Vishnu. Okay, interesting. Adityas. So the demons, the Dityas and the Adityas. Of the Dityas, I'm Vishnu. Of lights, I'm the radiant sun. Of Mrutis, I'm reaching. Of the stars, I'm the moon. Of the Vedas, so there's another reason why it's important for us to connect with nature. Krishna says, listen, I am the radiant sun. When you go out in the sun, and I know it's cold there now in New York City, but when you go out in the sun or you see the sun, remember Krishna. He's saying right here, he says, I am the radiant sun. This is the eye of the Lord. And among the stars, I'm the moon. What a pleasing star the moon is, isn't it? So beautiful to have that. When we had that full moon a little over 2 weeks ago, it was so bright and so powerful. And now you can feel the new moon is there. Different at night, darker at night. And of the Vedas, I'm the Samaveda. The demigods, I'm Indra. He's in this pastime. Of the senses, I'm the mind, and the living beings, I'm the living force. Of the Rudras, I'm Lord Shiva. He's in this pastime. Of the Akshas and Rakshasas, I'm the Lord of wealth, Kuvera. Of the Vasus, I'm fire, Agni. And of the mountains, I'm Meru. Adipurush Prabhu lights up what? Every single day to cook. What does he light? He lights Agni. He brings this beautiful form of the Lord, Agni, this wonderful, powerful demigod who's so humble, Agni, isn't he? He's so humble that he lives in your kitchen, in your house. He's so humble. So Agni's here. And of the mountains, I'm Meru. Of priests, nobody be the chief priest, Brihaspati. He's in this pastime. Of generals, I'm Kartikeya. He's in this pastime. And of body of his waters, I'm the ocean. Go to the ocean. I went to the ocean 2 weeks ago. And I was practically trembling because it was so loud. The sound of the ocean just in of itself, if you don't know what that is, and I hadn't been to the ocean in a very long time, if you don't know what that ocean is, the sound is almost deafening. The waves crashing, the power that's there, it's amazing. And this is just one little tiny part of our Lord. Of the great sages, I'm Brigu. He's in this pastime. Of vibrations, I'm the Om. Of sacrifices, I'm chanting of the holy names, confirmed by Shukracharya in the last verse. And of immovable things, I'm the Himalayas. Of all the trees, I'm the banyan tree. The sages, among the demigods, I'm Narada. He's in this pastime. Of a Gadarva, I'm Chitarata. And among perfected beings, I'm the sage Kapila. Of horses, of elephants, yes, of weapons, So these go on. Of the Daitya demons, I'm the devoted Prahlad. Here's Prahlad, our grandfatherly Prahlad. Did anybody else have that experience when you're reading about grandfather Prahlad? To see the idea of, in my mind, I'm always just picturing this little boy Prahlad, but to see this beautiful, dark, effulgent, long arm personality Prahlad, isn't that beautiful? To see that now Prahlad is coming in a different form or different age. So he's also in this pastime. And it goes on. But I wanted to bring that out to just start to appreciate where the Bhagavatam took us among all of these different personalities, and where the Bhagavatam takes us in our appreciation of seeing how wonderful is Krishna, how powerful is Krishna, how ultimately how sweet is Krishna. Because that is the salient feature of our Lord, is that he's so sweet, especially in the form of Krishna, and he's so kind and loving. And this is the thing that captures and captivates our heart. Now, to tie that all back together, and then we can open it up for questions, is appreciation is really nice, because it's really the antidote for this self-centeredness and this envy that we have in our hearts, and that I'm in control, I'm the boss, I'm all of those things. So appreciation is always the antidote to these things. And it's easy to appreciate a walnut tree. It's easy to appreciate a Grand Canyon or the Niagara Falls. These are easy things to appreciate. It's easy to appreciate the ocean. It's easy to appreciate some of these great personalities who perhaps we haven't met yet before, but we can see, wow, they're so powerful. It's easy to appreciate Krishna. But in community, our real job, our real purification, to show Krishna our sincerity, that we really believe in his supremacy and his beauty and his sweetness and his ultimate good, is that we appreciate devotees. You make great advancement when you do what? When you chant Hare Krishna regularly and you simply appreciate. Remember, Radhanath Maharaj said that in a lecture one time. He says, you just make great advancement. Just chant and just appreciate devotees. You make so much advancement to see what in the devotees, how Krishna is working through them. That's such a wonderful appreciation to see. Wow, you're so lucky. I'm appreciating each and every one of you on here who's connected with the Bhakti Center, who's living near the Bhakti Center. My heart goes out to you, and I know the exalted and wonderful status that you hold, because you're carrying forward the mission of Srila Prabhupada. I often reflect upon the letters that Srila Prabhupada would write in New York City, asking his god brothers for help. And I often think of our dear devotees there in the Bhakti Center, like a Gaur Sharan, who's and a Sunarnath Prabhu, who's there, who are the manifestation of Srila Prabhupada's desire, saying, just, I'll send some Indians, I'll send some brahmacharis here, just help me out, please. And they get to do these wonderful services. I often reflect upon all of the devotees there in New York in that way, because it's such a wonderful thing to do, to carry out. It's the best thing to do, to carry out the order of the spiritual master and the desire of these pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada. And so we find that it's nice to appreciate the opulences of the Lord, but it's even sweeter to appreciate the devotees. It's so much more intimate in that way. When we say these verses, Vanchakalpa Tarubhasta Kripa Sindhubheva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, we should really own that verse. We should really get to that point where our heads are on the floor and we are trying to be the wind behind everybody's sails. Let me appreciate. Vanchakalpa Tarubhasta. Let me just appreciate. And then happiness really comes. So these are some thoughts that I had on this. How wonderful is Krishna verse, because he is so wonderful, he is so powerful, but he is so sweet, and he is so loving, and he is, that's him, and he is working through each and every one of us when we sincerely desire that. And it's so it's such an exalted state to simply sit and appreciate each and every devotee for that unique contribution that they can make. Not that it has to be something grand, that we only appreciate when devotees do something grand or big, or wow, look, he got empowered to do this wonderful thing. But when they do something simple, when they clean the floor, when they do it with love, when they cook a sabji, but they really cook it for Radha Muralidar's pleasure, and when they light a ghee wick, and they're lighting that ghee wick, or they roll that ghee wick. I have so much appreciation for our Sundarnath Prabhu, who is always rolling those ghee wicks in the morning Bhagavatam class. I've been rolling our own ghee wicks lately, and I just think, man, I wish I would have learned from him how to do this better, because he'd have these nice ghee wicks. It's just such a wonderful thing, filled with love. So everybody has that, and we can find that, because the opposite is a hellish condition, actually. It's a hellish condition. The opposite of not appreciating is envy, and it creates such a hellish condition, and we really lose sight of how wonderful is Krishna. We can't see it. So all glories to everyone on this Zoom call, and all glories to all of the devotees there at the Bhakti Center serving with such amazing dedication and devotion. Very, very grateful to be in your assembly. Any thoughts, questions, or reflections on what was spoken today? Adi Push Prabhu, please.
Just two quick comments. We want to hear from everybody else. First of all, you were talking about colonizing Mars, and I was thinking the other day how difficult it is for devotees to colonize each village in this inhospitable atmosphere, you know, but the devotees are doing it. And then, yeah, just one quick pastime. There was one Pujari in the 90s taking care of Radha Muralidhar. And there was David Pasta's wife, I think her name is Patience. She wanted to make an outfit for Radha Muralidhar. So she asked me to ask the Pujari to measure Radharani and Krishna, right? So I went there with a pencil and paper and a tape measure. And this is very, you know, devotees, sometimes they're a little eccentric, even like devotionally eccentric, you know. So I gave him the tape measure and the paper, and he went on the altar. And he came out and he was like crying. And I was like, oh, Prabhu, what you can't do it. What do you mean? What do you mean? I cannot measure Radharani. I cannot measure Radharani. I said, okay, just go and just, come on. You cannot, I cannot, no, oh, come on. He's like a, you know, very tender-hearted Indian guy, you know.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't measure. He couldn't take the tape measure and measure Radharani. I said, okay, just give me one of the old outfits, you know. But it was so funny that he just was so, just the idea of it was so, he couldn't do it.
How are you going to measure Radharani? She's immeasurable.
He went, and he wasn't kidding either. This was a real sentiment. You know, it was a little bit, I don't want to say crazy, but something that happened then. But it was, I could see he really felt like that. And it was very beautiful. All glories to Prabhupada.
All glories to Prabhupada. What a beautiful example. You can't measure him. Can't measure her. Can't measure him. Can't measure our sweet Lord. Any other thoughts or comments or reflections? Everybody's waiting for Darshan. Oh, we got some chats. Oh, thanks, Champak. Thanks, Jamuna. Thank you, Jagadishwara.
Jai Giridhari Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hey,
I did
Hare
laugh
Krishna.
at your comments, the peanut picking comments. Thank you. Walnut.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Next time you come, I'll crack some for you, okay?
Yeah, I can do some labor. how do we see Krishna, God, in all these massive planets moving around in the outer space? Because you see, this planet is doing this, that planet is doing that, and this planet is Brihaspati, he's guru of Indra, and Indra had no clue about Krishna, and he tried to, destroy Govardhan celebration. So it's, how do we see Krishna through all that demigod opulence and massive planetary bodies floating in outer space, making impact in our life in so many ways? How do we see Krishna through all that and in all of them? And how do we appreciate their service?
Beautiful. Well, Krishna says it himself that we just read. I am the sun. I'm the moon. I give life to all the vegetables. We have to see how they affect us. That's for sure. And then when we have to see him as personalities, just like you see Adi Prabhu as a personality. You don't
personality. Yeah.
He's a real personality, Adi Prabhu. He's very particular. He's very unique, and and he's a good example, actually. Because if you think about Adi Prabhu, how he's carrying forth his service, dedicated, steady, all of those things. How long has the sun been doing his service? Right? And he shows up every single day, the sun. He's, without fail, perfectly timed. And we get proud sometimes when we hit Mangalarti for a month straight or something. The sun hasn't missed. He doesn't miss. Because he's a devotee. He loves to do his service. He loves to do these things. And they're empowered by the Lord to carry out the will of the Lord. When you get your birth chart done, you see it's called the Kala Chakra. That's what it refers to. This is how the wheel of time acts on you. This is how the wheel of time is going to carry out this lifetime, actually. Interesting. Whose wheel of time? Krishna's. Krishna's time I am, right? So time I am, and this is how I'm going to act upon you. I don't care how this is from your desire, right? This is from your desire because that you wanted. So I'm going to reciprocate with your desire, but I'm not going to be so involved in that Kala Chakra, because what I'm concerned is with whatever happens to you, that you're offering me your love. Because that's your desire. That's what you wanted. But I have these amazing managers that I've empowered that are they're so good at what they do. They're so incredible at what they do. You won't even think that you won't even notice how good they are. So you think you're such a good speaker, and Brihaspati's there empowering you. Because he's so good that you can't even understand that your power of speech is coming from some higher place, actually. Right? There's many empowered speakers. Not just spiritual speakers, but material speakers. And they're thinking, I'm so powerful, I'm so smart. This is the way to do it. I coach speech and communication with companies now. Everybody thinks they're so powerful. You're kidding me? Brihaspati's empowering certain people. He's not with others. And they're doing their job perfectly because they're devotees and they love to do their job perfectly. But they also get in trouble. And that's why we read about them. Because they're such powerful personalities. They also get in trouble. They also forget because they have so much opulence or they have so much power. So Shani, who's Shani? Right? Shani's so powerful right now.
Modern, yeah. The IRS, right?
Yeah, he's such a powerful personality, and he's doing his job perfectly. And they're all doing their job perfectly so that the experiences that we're having in this life, they're from our previous desires. But like I said, how do we see, you asked the question, how do you see Krishna in all of them? Well, how do you see Krishna in the devotees? You see their activities, and you see what they're doing, and you see how they respond. And these personalities they're so much more subtle and powerful than us that we should just humble ourselves before them and just say, I get it. I get it. I'm so tiny, but I do have one salient feature. This is the talk of the class. How wonderful is Krishna? I can remember Krishna at every moment. And that will help me to go beyond just these different influences that that I've accrued from my previous experiences. Is that helpful?
Perfect.
So we can understand they're just such wonderful personalities. That's why it's so nice. That's why I spoke about them in such a, because I really appreciate them. We got taken into this pastime, and think about the assembly in our own little world. You know better than anybody. In your own, remember the UN world, the big assembly. You'd have to go to these meetings with all these high-powered people. And these quote unquote high-powered people are such tiny, insignificant personalities. In this world, they might seem very big, but in the universe, and this is, Prabhupada says, this is 1/4. This is material creation. This isn't even the spiritual creation, which is 3/4. We're so tiny. And with that humility can come a genuine connection with our sweet Lord. And that's how we see these personalities. Thank you for doing your wonderful service, right? Just the same way as we thank you and Adi Prabhu for doing your wonderful service. Thank you so much. And we just pray that each and every person does their service with more and more love, because we know that is ultimately the only thing that's going on here as we take our long sojourn back home.
Thank you.
Thank you.